there we go. And then,
You get to the Atlanta Falcons. Start with the head coach. For me, again, TBD. Arthur Smith, first-time head coach. Interesting hire. I think a good hire. He was a very hot name in the coaching circles after his success with Ryan Tannehill and the Titans offense. We'll see if he can replicate that success in Atlanta. I think he'll have a better quarterback to do it with, but he won't have Derrick Henry, and he won't have as good as offensive line. So we'll see. For Atlanta, with their offense, the biggest thing to note from their offseason will be the subtraction of Julio Jones. Yes, he's an expensive receiver on the wrong side of 30 and has already had a history of injury issues, but when healthy, he's been one of the top in the league for a while. They took a tight end in Kyle Pitts at 4 and are betting pretty big that he can have a Gronk or Kelsey type impact to their offense. And that's a lot to expect out of a guy. I would expect a lot of 2 tight end sets out of the Falcons this year with Pitts and Hayden Hurst, mostly because their wide receiver depth behind Calvin Ridley is not great. Honestly, I would expect the Falcons will be pretty active, scouring the waiver wire on cutdown day for wide receiver help, much like the Patriots, because I could see a guy that gets cut elsewhere could come in and end up playing some meaningful snaps for the Falcons at wide receiver. And if anything happens to Calvin Ridley this year, good luck. I don't know how well Atlanta's going to be able to protect Matt Ryan again this year either. The running back room looks really rough. There's going to be a lot of ask of Matt Ryan, a lot put on his shoulders, and I think it may end up being a little too much, to be honest. Defensively, the unit was bad last year. Dan Quinn took a lot of heat for that, but I don't think it's going to be too much different this year. They've got a few solid pieces across that unit, but on the whole, I'm not expecting much of anything from them, to be honest. But overall, going into this past offseason, Atlanta was at a bit of a crossroads. They had big time cap issues alongside the Saints. They had an aging quarterback wide receiver duo, a number of holes to fill in that roster. And then for whatever reason, waited until late in the offseason and created yet another one by trading Julio. Honestly, I think they were a team that had too many holes to fill in one offseason. But instead of going the full rebuild route, trading Julio early, trading Matt Ryan, getting and loading up on draft picks, they're talking like they want to try to load up and make another run with Matt Ryan. Although it's a bit of a contradiction saying that and then trading away Julio Jones. Time will tell if looking back and them passing on a quarterback like Fields or Lance and sticking with Matt Ryan ends up being the right call. But I think if you look at just this season as a result, that decision's going to end up looking kind of bad. I think Atlanta ends up somewhere around 4-13.
All right. Atlanta Falcons. Head coach, I like the hire. Arthur Smith comes over for the Tennessee Titans. He comes to an offense that's lacking a running game. They haven't had one since Devontae Freeman. I don't know, man. That's his forte. But he comes into having a great quarterback, great receiver, and he has a terrible defense. And that's the conundrum. Your offense is missing some things. but the defensive side of the ball is terrible. And you're an offensive minded head coach, and that's going to be something you're going to have to figure out. Offense, quarterback's great, Matty Ice. Because he's a solid quarterback, man. A lot of teams would love to have Matt Ryan. I'm not even going to lie. He's healthy. He's a good quarterback. The running back position is a new face of Mike Davis. He was a backup. He did awesome for filling in for Chris McCaffrey last year. But let's see if he can do a good full-time role. The tight end, the offensive line, pretty good. Chris Matthews, Matt Hennessy, Chris Lindstrom. They're pretty good. Also, we're coming out of camp. Look for Jalen Mayfield from Michigan. Look, he's pushing for right guard. So that's pretty good. Tight end position, it's been elevated with the drafting of Kyle Pitts. But they also have Harry Hurst, who's probably a starting tight end on most NFL teams. So, like Corey said, they're probably going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. And Arthur Smith does utilize the tight end position a lot in his offenses. The receivers, man, Calvin Ridley. What can I say? He's a great receiver. He's probably one of the best route runners in the NFL. But can Russell Gage step up to Calvin Ridley's role? Probably not. They're pretty thin at the I think they're thin at the receiver position and they're thin at the running back position. Defense has a lot of work to do, especially with Jonathan Bullard, Tyler Davison, and Grady Jarrett. They had an awful defense last year, and they're probably going to have a bad defense this year. Now they did bring in Dante Fowler, but it's hard. When you're a sack artist and your defensive line is not good, it's hard to create sacks because you're going to get doubled more. The linebackers, Deion Jones, he has a tough task. A lot of linebackers are unknown. Once again, this defense was horrible last year. Now the defensive backs are young. Fabian Morano coming over from the Washington football team. But he was a good slot corner. Now he's moving to outside, which 2 different positions. And then AJ Terrell, who did decent last year, but once again, consistency. Like this is the defense was bad. Overall, Arthur Smith is I think he has a great offense, but he has a ton of work defense. This is a very interesting position for a head coach to come into with a veteran, stable quarterback, but the defense is horrible. So let's see. I don't think this is a simple rebuild, but I guess it's not a rebuild because they could have did it this year. But it is, which is, a weird thing that they're trying to do. So let's see what Smith does. My overall prediction for Atlanta, they'll be 5-2. All right, Craig?
Okay, well, Arthur Smith, I don't really have much to say. He's first year head coach. Maybe he'll pan out, but I think it's like a lot of these head coaches. He's kind of in a first year head coaches anyway. He's in a difficult situation with this team that's not going to be very good. Matt Ryan, former MVP, took his team to the Super Bowl, blew 28-3 lead, and he's still a solid quarterback though. He's still a really good quarterback. Top 10, top 15 type quarterback. Definitely still has the talent, still has gas in the tank. I don't know what they're doing with Matt Ryan. I don't know if they're trying to make one more run or if they're just trying to rebuild. I think with a veteran quarterback like Matt Ryan, you would try to at least make one more run. Obviously, this season is not going to be it. So maybe 2022, maybe 2022, they'll start pushing for some type of, especially with the division pretty much being Carolina the way they are, the Saints, their quarterbacks issues, and then you have Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's not going to be there forever, even though they have great pieces around them, but still need a quarterback to lead that charge. So maybe Matt Ryan can come back and be that leader for this team that's going to lead this team to the playoffs once again. So the backfield looks a mess. Mike Davis filled in for Christian McCaffrey last year. He did solid, nothing special. Put up decent yardage when he played. Had some kind of big plays, kind of crazy plays that he produced. But he just never really he didn't have 1,000 yards, even though he played majority of the games. And now he comes in, he's the full-time starter for this team. Unfortunately, Todd Gurley's not there anymore. Kind of thought they might be thinking about bringing him back with just Mike Davis in your backfield, but doesn't look like it's going to happen right now. So we shall see. I think Mike Davis has the capability of getting 1,000 yards. It's just going to be tough for him with this team. The receivers are. I mean, obviously, there's no more Julio Jones. Still have Calvin Ridley, who's a beast. Russell Gage is solid. He put up some when Julio Jones was hurt. He put up some solid numbers, and he was a pretty big number 3 for that team. Kind of when those two guys were getting looked at, he kind of stepped up a little bit and made some plays for that offense. They still have Hayden Hurst, who's a solid tight end, and then they bring in Kyle Pitts, who has a bunch of potential, a bunch of promise for that tight end group. And he'll probably come in and play receiver for that team. Like you put him on tight end, you probably could put him at receiver, and you can just leave Hayden Hurst out there and let him play tight end. So you have options with Kyle Pitts, and with his athleticism and his catching ability, like sky's the limit for him. And you combine that with Matt Ryan. I mean, that's a good combination right there. And I think he can come in and take the pressure off of Calvin Ridley and be another great pass catching focal point for that team. Caleb McGray took a big step forward in is a 2019 draft pick, and he took a big step forward last season at right tackle. So he's going to have to be taking even a bigger step coming into this season. Jake Matthews, he got better last year. He's kind of getting better every year since he came into the league. And once again, they're going to need him to step up big time for this offensive line group. That's not that good. The defense is horrendous, in my opinion. Like I don't really see any positives on this defense. They're going to have a tough time. I guess the fortunate thing is that they play in the dome. They can pump in some fake crowd noise, whatever, to get them over the hump, I guess. I don't feel too good about the defense as a whole. Dante Fowler Jr.'s first year with the team was nowhere near what the team expected of him. So this season, once again, more high expectations for him, and I just don't think he's going to live up to it. I do think their cornerbacks still relatively young. Like the whole team as a whole, they have a bunch of young players. Just looking at the depth chart, like there's a bunch of young players on this team, and I think if they can get some time in on the field, because like I said, they're not going to be in competition with anybody this year for the most part. But they can get on the field, get some reps, get some playing time, and the Falcons can see, okay, now we got some solid players at this position. They basically just see who's who and what they have. Who knows, in the next couple of years, possibly they could be really good. I do like their kicker though. He's really good. I don't want to mispronounce his name. Young Ho Ko, I believe his name. He's a solid place kicker. But I think the Falcons, the defense is going to be a big issue for this team, man. Like Deion Jones is probably like the biggest name. Grady Jarrett is another big name, I guess. But they're going to be struggling to stop anybody. And with the Bucks and their wide receivers, the Panthers and their wide receivers, and if Michael Thomas can get back on the field and they still have Kamara, like it's field day, and they play in the dome with no win, that benefits both teams, but their cornerbacks are just going to be eaten alive. So I see 4-13 for the Falcons. Looking at a top 5 draft pick again.
All right, Mo. Atlanta Falcons.
Head coach. I like the hire. Um, but where he's coming from and what he did in Tennessee, can he adjust? Because I mean, you don't have a Derrick Henry, but how many teams do? But you don't have a Derrick Henry right now. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I'm looking at their depth chart or whatever, and you don't have no back that even remotely resembles a Derrick Henry for like a bell cow back. So what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm cool with your 2 tight end set. You got Kyle Pitts, you got Hayden Hurst. That's a good set. And you have a Ridley who's good, but where do you go from there? Offensive line wise, it's weak at best. It's not really solid. I mean, Jake Matthews has been solid. I like to do what's his name? I like to do Lindsey, but overall, if you talk about whole, I don't like their offensive line for what they're trying to do, for what he's built on. I don't like it. Defensively, they're weak. I mean, Deion Jones, you like what he does. Terrell, but like you said, James, Fabian Moreau, he been in the slot all his life. Now you gonna make him on the outside as the number 1 corner? Like, who is he checking one-on-one on the outside? And that division is dangerous. That division is dangerous at wide receiver. So you gonna ruin his confidence. So overall, I say 4 wins. I can see them 4-13, 5-12. Anything over 5 wins for them, I'll be shocked though.